to BBVA Stadium, where two very different moods in the locker room. Like I said earlier, thanks again for sticking with us or hopping back on. Sorry about the technical difficulties here a moment ago, but we'll kick this thing off, Victor, with the Houston side of things, because finally, for the first time since May, I lost track of how many they hadn't won for, but I guess it doesn't matter now.
Finally, it was unsweet 16. That's the run they were going on. It wasn't pretty at all. But you're right. For the first time since May 22nd, a win here at BBVA Stadium for Houston. We were talking about it in the pregame show. Playoffs is probably out of the picture, but if they were to make either team make a run out of it, they had to start getting wins, and a big part of it was Darwin Quintero starting. They got the win in the first minute, and then a big part of that too is managing the game out, because this exact scenario happened 2 weeks ago. Coco Carrasquilla got the goal in the first minute, but then about 15 minutes later they were already tied. Minnesota then takes the win in the 80 something. So they had this scenario. They just found ways to lose games, which is what bad teams technically do. But on this occasion, it just I think Ramos played his best 11, and they paid him back with the victory.
Yeah, I mean, talk about bad teams. I think all the excuses are out the window for Austin FC. Real moment of reckoning, I think, for them coming in here to Houston, feeling like, they, for whatever reason, they still felt like they had been playing good soccer, and they just didn't bring the fight tonight. And Josh Wolf sort of said it. That's where it starts. I mean, if you don't bring the intensity in the fight in this league, the talent level is similar. This is sort of what Alex Ring was just saying. The talent level is similar. So that's the bare minimum. And a lot of guys getting called out in this locker room right now for just not bringing it. Yeah, I mean, 47 seconds, I think, in. Obviously, that's the moment Darwin Quintero makes a nice play. And you talk about Darwin Quintero not playing all season. I think that, Josh Wolf wasn't sure that everybody in his team maybe knew who the number 23 was. He said that the film was available and that he felt like Danny Pereira should have watched film, but he just didn't feel like the young midfielder stepped or understood who he was facing up with at the top of the box.
Well, that's
the ruse, Todd Ramos. It's like, I'm a big Ohio State fan. We took a tough one today, but that's what always feel like you save something for the big rivalry game. Well, I feel like Todd Ramos was sitting Darwin Quintero all year just for this moment.
They waited until September to do it, but you could just see that a player like that just gives calm, gives poise to a team. That there's just talent that you don't have in any other player. And you saw it with the rest of the team. We just saw the highlights there. You see it with the rest of the team. It just brings a calmness to the team that, you just ride a game out, and look what had happened. A 3-0 victory, because that's exactly what this team needed. A quarterback, right? A midfield maestro, whatever name you want to call it. Somebody that just manages the team from the center of the field. And listen, there's talk all year about a hardworking team. Not everybody has to work hard. There's a reason talented players get away with a lot more stuff,
right?
Because they bring in other areas. They bring other qualities that players can't do. In the end, something like the very first play, gets the shoots on target. The rebound gets left for a workhorse player like Griffin Dorsey, who today gets rewarded with I believe his first MLS goal in his career. And then the rest kind of just goes from there. Fafa Pico, who's been one of the hard-working players for this team, but just hasn't been able to, be able to produce something for the Dynamo. Well, guess what? Now he's not the guy having to produce everything. Now he's not the best player on the field. Now the attention can go somewhere else, like Darwin Quintero, and guess what Fafa Pico can do? Get open and be able to contribute in his own way.
Right, and I think Fafa Pico, I mean, that's another story from this game. I thought, he was really good, and he terrorized Austin in the preseason even. The thing is is that Austin wants to play this beautiful game of soccer. They want to, move the ball around, and Houston didn't need to mess with that tonight. They just played right through Austin, right over the top, route one, and it's a very simple game when you make it simple, and when the other team just lays down and lets you do it. I thought that
helps out a lot too.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, Austin gave up that goal in the first minute, and they just looked lifeless for the whole first 45. They tried to react in the second half, but by that point it's too late. We've seen that too much from this team, where there's a few guys in the field that are working. That Alex Rings, Diego Fagundes is never going to let his motor shut off, but there's some guys on this team that just feels like they just kind of turned off. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that.
What's the deal with Cecilio Dominguez? I mean, that's a guy that hasn't, I think, produced for Austin in maybe the same manner. That's part of it, right? I mean, the same kind of was happening here. Kind of keeping it in the Club America team, right? Former America player, not getting maybe the favor from his coach, but in the end, I got to give credit to Tab Ramos today on the coaching side of things.
Yeah.
A lot of people have criticized him and said, his substitutions aren't there, his game management isn't there. But in the end today, look, I think coaches can be very stubborn in their ways, right? Once they think something.
I don't know who you're talking about here.
and today, I think, Tab Ramos does deserve a lot of credit for that, in a way. And it's hard to say because, we only see part of the picture as reporters, right? We don't know everything that gets talked about, behind the scenes in the locker room. But there's always issues. I mean, in pro sports, I'm sure had to do a lot with why Darwin Quintero hadn't been playing. But for the sake of getting those results today, I think he put out his best 11, and it worked because I think this is what this team needed. Quintero in the middle. The best 11 players that can go out there. Enough with the guys that work hard. No, the best 11 that can get the job done need to be out there, because at the end of the day, this is business, this is sports, this ain't charity.
Yeah, well, I mean, on the other side, Josh Wolf kind of said that he's gonna run out a different 11 on Wednesday night. He's gonna find the guys. Maybe the quality's not there, but we just need guys that can work hard. So it's sort of the opposite sides of the same coin, trying to get that balance right. And I think both clubs have had that problem this year. But tonight it was Houston's night, and it was really, I thought, a night for the fans in Houston to sort of stick one to Austin FC. There's all this talk that Austin's the big club in Texas right now, and in the stands that might be true. There were plenty of empty orange seats tonight, but you know what? They don't have a team on the field. Alex Ring said it tonight that we don't deserve these fans. These fans keep traveling, and he said he feels ashamed that they're coming out here and laying eggs for this group, and so I think it's got to feel good. It's got to feel good for the fans that do show up for Houston, right, and for Dallas, that have watched those teams sort of stick one to Austin and say, hey, we're not gonna let this state go to you guys just because you've got better fans, right, just because you got a new stadium, just because you've got an owner that cares, or whatever it is. They
have the team with the 2 MLS Cup championships.
Exactly.
So that's the big bragging point. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it means a lot, I think, to the fans. I think it's a big monkey off the back of the players. And look, we talk about, we promote the Copa Tejas all year, right? I mean, this cup, if there's anything else, if there's a silver lining in this season,
Houston's right back in the mix for that.
Right. They got Dallas here next weekend. Of course, we'll be here, the Striker Texas. And Houston now has a chance to really put it away and also keep El Capitan, which is the cannon that gets disputed between Houston and FC Dallas.
I think two big questions coming away from tonight for Austin of many. There's lots of questions, but the one that I sort of posed to Josh Wolf, because he was talking a lot about a personal responsibility and accountability and some of the players. He actually kind of called out Danny Pereira for that first goal, which is probably fair for what happened, but it's a little bit tough to throw a 21-year-old kid under the bus. He was just in college last year. Alex Ring, kind of refused to throw his teammate under the bus, and so that was kind of an interesting moment tonight. Yeah. But I asked Josh Wolf, what's it going to take for these guys? What's it going to take for them to take on that responsibility, to lay into each other, and really to wake up and bring intensity? And I think that's the big question that this team is facing. I'm not sure that he has a good answer for it, because it's all been talk at this point. This team says that they want to play hard, they want to work hard, they want to win matches, but when push comes to shove, the results aren't there, and that's part of it. But I think that the other part of this for Austin is just it's not who's to blame, because you pointed the finger all year if you're a fan or
Yeah,
you're in
yeah,
that locker
it's
room, but
tough,
it's time to, the people in the room can figure this out. They just need to, they
right?
got to dig deep and find the best versions of themselves, and it's not there right now.
Yeah, it's tough to manage the locker room. I think that's the biggest thing. I think in
Right.
Houston's case, Tab Ramos has tried to manage it in a very pacific manner, if we can put it that way. He's done everything but throw his players under the bus. I do think, he has the support of the players. I do think, there isn't any animosity in that sense.
Right.
It's just, in this case here in Houston, it's just the coach that in his own tactical ways. And I think today, maybe he gave the players their say. Maybe he gave the players the benefit of the doubt. And like I said, today they rewarded him. The interesting for Houston will be if they keep coming out this way. And I think maybe it's a little too late, but only they can speak on the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with what we heard from Josh Wolf, is that I think this is a big moment for him as a coach, because he's trying to lay down some accountability with guys. He's calling guys out. He's telling them it's not good enough, and he even took on some responsibility himself, saying it all starts with me. But I do think that it's a big moment for him of managing this locker room, because when you lay down that gauntlet, when you say, you guys aren't
Yeah, it's
fighting
a
for
learning
me,
curve for him as a
when
coach.
you say that, there's guys on this team that are not, basically not doing what I'm telling them to do, and they're not bringing the intensity. I mean, it's tough, because as much as there's Alex Rings and Deo Fagundez's and Brad Stuvers in this locker room that are gonna fight for him until he's not the coach anymore, I think there's some guys in there that you kind of question whether they are going to dig in and fight for this guy for the last stretch of the season, or as things are going to keep going sideways, and is Josh Wolf really going to be facing even more questions at the end of the year?
Yeah, the biggest thing I think for a coach is to put the players in the best position to succeed. Like I said, I don't think, and just in my personal opinion, I don't think Tab Ramos was doing that all year
Mhm.
with this Houston Dynamo team, and therefore that's why you had the 16 game winless streak tonight. That was the case, and it got them the result. In the case of Austin, I think it's a learning curve, and I think that's why you have some Austin fans saying, "Listen, this isn't remedial English. This isn't we're not here to be kind of the test dummy for Josh Wolf, right?"
Right.
And that's why maybe some are asking for a more experienced coach, but only the owners can decide.
Exactly. Only the owners can decide. And again, I don't think that you could put this whole season on Josh Wolf. It's I wrote it in my piece. You can go check out my takeaways, but there's a lot of parts of this team that haven't been good enough. The roster build wasn't good enough as many pieces as Claudio Reyna put in place. They still don't have a number 9 who's 90 minutes fit. They still don't have, I mean, you saw tonight Matt Beasler was out and the center backs weren't good enough. Lucas Conte got beat a couple times, and they
Yeah,
still
that's
need
not a good back line, I
they,
don't think.
they still need
And
another
that's something that
top level center back.
That's
They
something we
still,
saw in preseason.
and the ownership set the expectations too high. That's a problem. They think of themselves very highly, but they haven't proven it as a franchise. And I think that everything except for really the fans who show up and scream their hearts out every night, I think there's room to question this franchise, and I think that's where can people sort of look in the mirror and dig deep, because I do think that Claudio Reyna's got a lot of institutional knowledge. He's got a lot of connections. I think he can get this right. I think Josh Wolf has tactical knowledge. I think he's learning how to be a head coach. I think ultimately long term he can get this right. But is it
Is it
worth
going to
giving the
be in
time,
Austin?
right? Is it worth giving the time, and is blowing it up, what's that going to really get you, I guess, is kind of where I leave myself. But not to focus on Austin too much, because it is a big night for the Houston Dynamo. Victor, what's the mood in the locker room like? What are these guys saying?
Relief.
It's relief, but it's got to be joy. Got to be, they've you could see it tonight. These guys still care, and
Right.
and I think that's a big thing for a team that went through 16 games as hard as they did. I think that a lot of growth comes from a group out of something like that. Obviously, they need more quality, but it was tonight a night that you saw some guys sort of stake a claim to being here in 2022.
I think you've seen some of that throughout throughout this winless runs.
Mm-hmm.
You've been able to pick out, some of the guys who've sort of, quit in the sense, not completely, but not giving maybe full effort. You've seen some guys that have, we see there Fafa Pico. He's probably the best example of a guy that, you know, maybe limited, but at the end, he's giving you everything he has. And here's the rest of it, right? I mean, I don't think, like I said, I think we're not trying to lie to people and tell them, hey, that they could still make the playoffs. No, I mean they have to put themselves in that situation first. But in the end, this final stretch will be to find out who deserves to be here in the next year. I think there are some pieces there. At the end, the big part of it is a big quality player. One of the questions will be if Darwin Quintero returns in 2022.
Yeah, it will be.
And if he doesn't, who's going to be the piece towards the future? And because in that case, are you setting up the rest of the players to succeed, the ones you're keeping?
Yeah, totally. And there's going to be a lot to take away from this match, both on the Houston side and on the Austin side. You can check out both of our coverage at thestrikertexas.com. And I think what we've learned tonight is that being an Austin FC journalist means that there's a lot of food involved. Either I'm buying you food or buying John food, or Phil
Welcome
West
to the league, Chris.
yeah, at least I didn't do what Phil West did and promise that I was going to eat something that might kill me. But we all have our vices, and now I owe you a meal, I owe John a meal. Maybe we can figure that all out at the same time when the next time you guys are in Austin. But for the rest of you, I got to get back to Austin tonight, along with Roberto Silva, who's the man behind the screen tonight, pulling the strings. Big thanks to him for making the trip over, and big thanks to you, Victor, for doing all you do for the Striker Texas and everybody that subscribes. We'll see you guys next week, and I think it's a double match week for both teams, so lots of coverage coming up
midweek
on the Striker Texas. Yep. And like I said, lots of reaction from this one. So good night from BBVA Stadium. Thanks for tuning in, and hang in there, Austin FC fans and Houston fans.